This is my version of a Z-fold crib card. I know that some of you that have followed my channel from the beginning are thinking, she already did this, and you are right. I experienced a learning opportunity this week. Somehow I managed to delete the video from my YouTube account. And since it was my most viewed video, I decided to record it again. I use a variety of products in my cards. The two punches I used today are Stampin' Up. The card base and crib are AC cardstock. The pink paper panels are Sizzix, and the stamp and die set that I used are Lawn Fawn Little Bundle. The paper they are stamped on is also a Lawn Fawn Petite Plaid. This card is a standard A2 size card. When it's folded, it will mail for one stamp. A couple of things about this. The panels, the sentiment panels that I put on here are just temporarily adhered because I do not put any of my panels on, the panels that will be stamped on or written on, until I have done that, because I don't want to make a mess on a panel and then have a problem with the card itself. So these will be replaced with the real thing. There's any number of ways that you can decorate this card. This time I chose to do these little die cuts from the Lawn Fawn Little Bundle. I've also done it with animal shapes and whatnot. Again, you can coordinate the colors to whether it's a girl or a boy or yellow or green, whatever you want to do. So let's go ahead and get started on this. Thank you for your patience in watching this again. Now onto the paper that you need to cut for this card. The first piece is the card body. You cut it 4 1/4 inches by 11 inches. Next, you cut 2 pieces of paper for the crib ends. You cut them at 2 inches by 3 1/2 inches. After you cut the decorator top end of the card, you will trim the overall length to 3 1/4 inches. The back of the crib is 2 1/4 inches by 4 inches, and you score it at 3/8 inch on each end. The crib rail, this is what you cut the slots out of for the front rail. It is 2 1/4 inches by 4 1/2 inches. The top bar of the crib rail is cut 2 1/2 inches by 4 inches, and you score 3/8 inch on each end. The bottom rail is cut at 3/4 inch by 4 inches. Again, you score at 3/8 inch on each end. And after the front rail is totally assembled, you then cut a decorator part out of the bottom of it. You need 2 inserts for the crib. They are cut 2 inches by 4 1/2 inches, and you score at 5/8 inch on each end. To put the sentiments on the front and inside of the card, you need 2 pieces of paper, and those you just determine what is going to fit there, whatever dies you have or punches you have that will work for that. Next, for the panels for the card body, you cut 1 piece that's 5 3/8 inches by 4 1/8 inch, and you also cut 2 panels that are 2 5/8 inches by 4 1/8 inch. For the crib quilt, you cut one piece that is 3 1/8 inches by 2 inches. All right, now let's start the assembly of this card. Start off with the card body. Again, that is 4 1/2 inches by 11 inches. And you will then score at 5 1/2 inches. And at 2 3/4 inches. Fold and crease the score line, fold and crease the score line. Now what you can do is add the panels for the card. I generally use tape to put decorator panels on, and it's just a matter of centering each of the patterned paper panels, centering it in the area that it fits in. There. Now the card body is finished. The next item that you will work with are the crib ends. Now, I happen to be using some Stampin' Up! Products in this. However, everything here is convertible to virtually anything else. This is the scallop tag topper. And I now want to make sure that it is 3 1/4 inches high. Let's go with the crib inserts right now. You have 2 of them that are cut 2 inches by 4 1/2 inches. Score at 5/8 inch on each end. these two panels. Then you crease on each score line. Okay, now I forgot to tell you, on these inserts, if there is a difference between the front and the back side of the paper, one of them you crease with the folds going back, and the other you crease with the folds going forward. Now, on the one with the folds going forward, you'll attach the crib quilt to it. And again, center it in this panel, level with the top edge, and centered between the folds. Next piece to work with is the bottom rail cover, the piece that is 3/4 inch by 4 inches. You score it 3/8 of an inch on each end. And the top rail cover, the piece that's cut 1/2 inch by 4 inches, score it 3/8 of an inch on each end. Now we are going to work with the crib rail itself. This is the piece that is cut 2 1/4 inches by 4 1/2 inches. What you will start doing with this is line your paper up at 4 1/4 inches, and you will cut up to 3/8 of an inch. Slide it over 1/4 of an inch, and again cut up to 3/8 of an inch. Slide another 1/4 of an inch, cut up to 3/8 of an inch, and you continue doing this, sliding 1/4 of an inch, cutting up to 3/8 of an inch. This 3/8 of an inch at the top edge is not a precise measurement. It needs to be close to that, but making the cut a little bit deeper, as long as you don't cut all the way through, is not going to be a problem. You do want to make sure that the 1/2 inch rail cover that you're going to attach is going to cover all of the cut lines that you are doing. Now, when you have it lined up, as you've moved in the 1/4 inch increments up to the, you have lined up with the 1¼ inch mark. At this point, you will cut all the way through it. The reason that this piece is cut longer to start off with is so that you always have something to hang on to as you are sliding it through. Next thing that you will do is start cutting these out. Cut the end one, skip one, cut another one, skip one, and just continue working your way across this, cutting one out and leaving one. And you are left with a piece that looks like this. Now, what you will do, again, pay attention to right and wrong sides of paper if you have one. Taking the top rail cover, the piece that is cut 1/2 inch wide, you will glue it to the top of this. The reason for this is that, as you can see, there are all sorts of uneven ends there, but with this rail cover on, it is going to be even. And what you want to do is just center it between those score lines and make it flush to the top of that. Okay. Next is the bottom rail cover, the piece that's cut 3/8 of an inch. Put glue on each end of the rail cover, enough to make it stick, but yet not so much that it's going to ooze out a lot. Now, again, you want to center it between the score lines. Put the ends of those crib rails even with the bottom end of the rail cover. And then set this aside just for a moment to let it set up a little bit before there's any more cutting done on it. Now, let's go back to the inserts that will go in this. The crib back. This is another piece that needs to be scored. It is 3/8 of an inch, scored 3/8 of an inch on each end. And as you crease the ends, if there is a right and wrong side of the paper you're using, you want to have the folds come to the front of the paper. So let's start assembling this crib. first thing that you will do is take in the back of it. I prefer using glue on it because it gives me just a little bit of time to be able to slide things into place. Put glue on one edge, line the side of the crib up with the bottom edge of the crib back. Hold it in place and do the same thing on the other side. Glue on that 3/8 inch tab and on and press it so that it holds. Now you have this much done. At this point, the front rail will be dry enough to work with. What you will do at this point is cut a decorator notch out of the bottom of the rail. You want to make it deep enough so that it looks pretty, but not so deep that it compromises the integrity of it. You want to leave about half of this cover showing. Center your punch between the two score lines. And there. Now, the front of the crib is ready to assemble. Crease the tabs back, fold them back, and just continue assembling. Again, my preference is glue on this. And line the bottom edge of that rail up with the bottom edge of the crib end, making sure that you have everything square. Now you have the basics of the crib put together. At this point, take the front insert that has the crib quilt piece on it, and with the tabs folded forward, put glue on one end of the tab. Slide it into place, line it up with the top edge of the rail. Make sure that it's totally snug up against the rail. Now on the other end, glue again and lift it into position. Open the tab up. Again, line it with the top edge of that rail. And the crib looks like it's starting to come together. Next step is the back insert. put glue on one tab. Slide it down into position. Open the tab up. And again, you want to have it slid to the top edge of that back piece and snug against the back rail. Oops, Butterfingers. Now, fold that other tab down. Put glue on it. These needle nose glue bottles are especially convenient for these. Open the tab up, slide it into position, flush along the back edge of that crib and flush to the top edge of the crib there. Now you have the crib finished. Next thing that you will do is, with the two smaller panels there, I see that on this one, I did not have the bottom edge of this completely flush to it. So I need to carefully peel this out and open it up again. Let's try the glue on this again. It is critical that it be able to fold flat and hold flat in this position. So those lining up with the edges is essential. The next step that I like to do is actually glue the back of the crib. When the crib is in its folded flat position, I put glue on it, line it up with the bottom edge of the card, and making sure that it is snug into that crease, I then fold the card closed. Open it up and make sure that it is all lined up. Now, put glue on this crib end. Fold the card closed on top of it. And you have the basics of the card done now. What I like to do is have the card sentiments stamped, written ahead of time before I put them on the card, because if you make a mistake in stamping or when you've written something, misspell, whatever, you can just get rid of that piece and you've not ruined a card. So these I put on with temporary adhesive. The next thing that you will do is decorate the card with cute little animals or baby things, things that similar to what I showed in the very beginning of the video. Again, it is strictly up to you. I've seen it can be done as elaborately or as simply as you want. Enjoy this card.